Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.
Hello everyone, welcome to Lukman IAS. Today we are going to take questions from Indian polity, and in this series we are discussing the previous year questions of UPSC prelims examination. So now let us quickly see the topics from where we have taken the questions. Okay, so the first question that we have taken is from joint sitting of the parliament. Okay, second question is covering the money bill. Then third question talks about the directive principles of a state policy. Fourth topic talks about the fundamental duties, and the last topic talks about the economic justice. So we are not only going to discuss about these questions, we are also going to understand the deeper aspects of these topics. Okay. So apart from this, if we talk about the syllabus of Indian polity in the prelims examination, so this is the syllabus that is mentioned in the UPSC notification that says Indian polity and governance, constitution, political systems, panchayati raj, public policy and rights issues. Okay. So it is very important that you should be focusing on the syllabus as well whenever you are covering a particular topic. So with this, now let us take the first question. This question was asked by UPSC in the year of 2015. Okay. And if I rate this particular question, this question can be considered as an easy question for many of you, but for some of you it may be considered as a moderate question. Okay. So this question is directly based on bookish language, means like if you read Indian polity from any of the book like D.D. Basu or Lakshmikant, you will be able to answer this question easily. So let us read this question, what this question talks about. It says, when a bill is referred to a joint sitting of both the houses of the parliament, it has to be passed by. Okay. So here we need to understand that this particular question is talking about joint sitting of the parliament. So as you know, like, what does the parliament constitute? The parliament constitutes the president of India, then the lower house and the upper house. Lower house means the Lok Sabha, upper house means the Rajya Sabha. Okay. So there are three types of bills. Okay. So one thing you need to understand is that like we have a parliament, then you need to have an understanding that we have three types of bills. One of the bill is known as an ordinary bill. Okay. Second bill can be considered as a money bill. The third category of bill can be considered as a constitutional amendment bill. Constitutional amendment bill. Okay. So we have generally three types of bills. Okay. So this particular question revolves around like joint sitting. When we talk about joint sitting, like in which of these cases like joint sitting is allowed? Joint sitting is allowed in case of an ordinary, bill. So joint sitting is allowed. Here joint sitting is not allowed. Here in the constitutional amendment bill again, joint sitting is not allowed. Okay. So when they are talking about that, like they are talking about a joint sitting, so it is essentially talking about an ordinary bill. Okay, an ordinary bill in the parliament. So for ordinary bill to be initiated, it can be initiated in either house of the parliament. It can be initiated in the Lok Sabha, it can be initiated in the Rajya Sabha, it can be initiated by a private member, it can be initiated by a minister as well. So in normal cases, like when an ordinary bill is passed, right, when an ordinary bill is introduced, okay, so it has to be passed by the first house first, okay, by a ordinary by a ordinary majority or simple majority. Then it will go to the second house also passes it by a simple majority, and then it goes to the president for ratification. Then president signs it and the bill becomes an act. So this is the normal process. But what happens? So if we talk about house 1 means house 1 can be Lok Sabha, it can be Rajya Sabha. Then we have house 2. House 2 can be Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. If the bill has originated in this particular house, it will go to the second house. Okay. And second house has an option of rejecting this particular bill. Second house can reject the entire bill. Okay. Then there is another situation that the bill is initiated in one house, it goes to the second house, 6 months lapses. Okay, 6 months lapses, but the second house does not take any action on it. What can be the third situation? So I am talking about different situations. Okay, what can be the third situation? The third situation can be that house 1 has introduced a bill, it has passed this bill, the bill goes to the second house, and what does the second house does? The second house actually recommends some kind of amendments in this particular bill, but these amendments are not acceptable to the first house. So in that case there is a deadlock between both the houses. Okay, so because of a deadlock the bill does not pass. Okay, so over here, okay, there is a deadlock. Deadlock means there is a difference of opinion with reference to a amendment in that particular bill. So in all these three cases, what is the way forward? Like if the bill has to be passed, okay, what is the way forward? The thing is, the president, okay, then the president may ask both the houses to sit on a joint on a joint sitting. So here in this case, house 1 plus house 2, both the houses will be sitting together. Okay, they will now discuss on this particular bill. They will deliberate on this bill and they will vote upon. Okay, and after voting upon, if the bill is passed by a simple majority of the members present and voting, then it will be considered as a bill that is passed. So over here what is happening? The President of India can summon both the houses for for a joint sitting. So that call for a joint sitting is given by the President of India. Then who presides over a joint sitting? The Speaker of the Lok Sabha presides over the joint sitting. Okay, who presides? The Speaker of the Lok Sabha presides over the joint sitting, okay, of both the houses, and once it is passed it will be considered as passed. So what is happening? Now let us read this question again after understanding the bills. Okay, so let us read. It says, when a bill is referred to a joint sitting of both the houses of the parliament, it has to be passed by a simple majority of the members present and voting. Okay, it does not require any 3/4, 2/3 or absolute majority. Okay, so option A is the right option. So what it requires? It requires that you should understand about different types of bills. You should also have understanding about the Parliament of India. You should also understand about procedures, how the bills are being passed. So like these are very basic things in Indian polity. So once you read it, you will be able to answer this question. Correct answer is option A, and it is a very easy question. Okay, so with this, now let us move to the next question for the day. Okay, so this question was asked by UPSC in the year of 2018. Okay, so let us read this question. It says, regarding money bill, which of the following statements is not correct? Okay, regarding money bill, which of the following statements is not correct? Here they are not asking the correct option. Here we have to identify an option that is incorrect. It means 3 of these options will be correct, 1 of these option is incorrect. So they have given 4 options, 3 options are correct, 1 option is incorrect. Here we need to understand money bill. Okay, so what is a money bill? We need to understand about money bill. Okay, so when we talk about money bill, so in the Constitution of India there is an article which is article 110. Okay, so article 110 of the Constitution of India talks about what is a money bill. Okay, so a money bill is any bill. Okay, so let us read all of it. You should just have an understanding. Like in the previous question also we discussed, there are generally 3 types of bills: ordinary bill, money bill and constitutional amendment bill. Okay, so now we are in the previous question we discussed about the first type of bill, ordinary bill. Now we are discussing about the second type of bill, which is money bill. Okay, so now let us read this question and we will try to answer this question. Okay, it says, a bill shall be deemed to be a money bill if it contains only provisions relating to imposition, abolition, remission, alteration or regulation of any tax. This is right. Okay, if you read article 110, it is mentioned in that particular article in clear words okay, about these things. It is a provision of that particular article itself. Okay, let us read the second option also. It says a money bill has provisions for the custody of the Consolidated Fund of India or the Contingency Fund of India. Okay, this is also right. Okay, Consolidated Fund of India is the main account of the Government of India. Okay, so from Consolidated Fund of India goes the salary of the justices, like Chief Justice of India and other judges of the Supreme Court of India. Then salary of the President of India also goes from the Consolidated Fund of India. Okay, so money bill has the provision about like who is going to be the custodian of the Consolidated Fund of India and Contingency Fund of India. When we talk about Contingency Fund of India, it is that particular fund. Okay, it is that particular fund which is reserved for a particular purpose. So like it is associated a particular purpose. Okay, what is that purpose? Like if we face any calamity, in that situation the money from the Contingency Fund of India will be utilized, and this is mentioned as per Article 267 clause 1 of the Constitution. Okay, so this is about Contingency Fund of India. This is also correct. Okay, option B is also correct with reference to money bill. If we talk about third option, it says a money bill is concerned with the appropriation of monies out of the Contingency Fund of India. This is incorrect. Okay, so appropriation related things are mentioned in Article 110 clause D. Okay, Article 110 clause D talks about that money can be appropriated from the Consolidated Fund of India. The first type over here in option B, we have mention of two different types of funds. One is Consolidated Fund of India, another is Contingency Fund of India. But the Article 110 clause D talks about that like money can be appropriated from the Consolidated Fund of India in a specific way. Okay, so it is not the Contingency Fund of India. Okay, so that's why option C is incorrect. Now let us read option D as well. It says a money bill deals with the regulation of the borrowing of money or giving of any guarantee by the Government of India. This is also correct. Okay, so here option A, option B and option D are correct statements with reference to money bill. Here in this question they have asked us to find out what is not correct with reference to money bill. So option C is not correct. So that's why our answer from our side should be option C. Okay, now what is the requirement like from your side so that you be able to answer these questions? One of the primary requirement is that like you should focus on reading the important articles of the Constitution of India. Okay, there are few articles in the Constitution of India that are very important. Okay, that are very important. Why very important? Because it is associated with day-to-day affair of the Government of India and the Indian Constitution. If we talk about money bill is something which is a very prominent part, because like the Government of India comes up with the budget. Okay, so it appropriates money from the Consolidated Fund of India. Then there are a lot of things, there are a lot of references where you find mention about the money bill. Okay, so that's why option C is correct. If I have to rate this question as easy, moderate or difficult, this question can be considered as moderate for many of you, but for some of you this question can be leveled as difficult. Okay, for those people who do not read articles of the Constitution of India. Okay, so with this, now let us move to the next question. Okay, so let us take another question. This question was asked by UPSC in the year of 2013. Okay, 2017. So now let us read this question. It says, with reference to the Constitution of India, the directive principles of state policy constitute limitations upon legislative functions, executive functions. Which of the above statements is or are correct? Here they are asking about correct statements. Okay, so you can pause the video and meanwhile you can try to answer this question. Okay, so I would say that none of these statements are correct. Okay, here you need to understand the nature of directive principles of state policy. Okay, what is the nature of directive principles of state policy? The nature is enabling nature. Okay, it enables the Government of India in formulation of certain legislations to benefit the society. Okay, So directive principles of a state policy are the guidelines, okay. These are the guidelines to the legislature and to the executive, okay. So that like legislature while framing law, they should keep these principles in mind, okay. So these principles are an enabling mechanism, they are not prohibitory mechanisms. Here they are, this particular question about, they pose limitations, okay. So these directive principles do not pose limitations. However, if we talk about fundamental rights, you know, impose limitations on the legislature as well as on the judiciary. Means like you know, fundamental rights impose, you know, like limitations on legislative functions of the government as well as executive function, but not the directive principles of a state policy, okay. So now let us little you know, discuss about directive principles of a state policy in little bit detail, okay. So directive principles of a state policy are mentioned in part 4 of the constitution from article number 36 to 51, okay. And the directive principles of a state policies are, okay, similar to the instrument of instructions, okay, that were given to the Governor General and the governors during the British India. So like these directive principles of a state policy resemble those things, okay. And apart from this, the directive principles of a state policy are, okay, so these DPSPs are non-justiciable in nature, okay, they are non-justiciable in nature. What do we mean by non-justiciable character? It means if the government of India does not implement any of the provision of part 4 or, you know, under the directive principles of a state policy, no one can file a case against the government, okay. Means like people can file the case, but the thing is like it will not be justiciable in a court of law, okay. So that's the thing. So that's why correct answer for this question is option D, okay. So in your free time you should read about, you know, the provisions of the directive principles of a state policy. If I have to rate this question is little bit conceptual in nature. It is not exactly, you know, like you have to apply little brain to come to the answer of this question. I would say this question to be of moderate nature, okay, of moderate nature, okay. So this is not very easy and this is not very difficult. So a person who is who understands the nature of the directive principles of a state policy, he'll be able to answer this question. Now with this, now let us take the next question for the day. This question was asked by UPSC in the year of 2017 itself, okay. So let us read this question. It says, which of the following statements is or are true of the fundamental duties of an Indian citizen, okay. So here we have to find out the correct statements, okay. They have given few statements about fundamental duties. Let us read them, then we will understand in detail about fundamental duties as well, okay. It says, a legislative process has been provided to enforce these duties, okay. This is incorrect. Second statement, it says they are correlative of legal duties. This is also incorrect, okay. So that's why option D is the right answer for this thing, okay. So let us understand what is fundamental duty, okay. Fundamental duties are those duties that a citizen is expected to perform, okay. A citizen is expected to perform, but like they are non-justiciable, okay. They are non-justiciable similar to DPSPs, okay. So fundamental duties are non-justiciable, okay, and their nature is similar to DPSP. So here they are saying like a legislative process has been provided for enforcement, okay. So no legislative process has been provided for enforcement of these, you know, like fundamental duties, okay. So no legislative process is provided. The fundamental duties has just been inserted into the constitution, okay. They were inserted into the constitution on the recommendation of a committee headed by Swaran Singh, okay, headed by Swaran Singh. It is also known as Swaran Singh committee, okay. They have been included in the constitution under 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976. Okay, so at the time when the fundamental duties were inserted into the constitution, we had 10 fundamental duties. Okay, but under the 86th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2002, okay, another fundamental duty was inserted. Okay, so now effectively we have 11 fundamental duties in our constitution ranging from A to K, and these fundamental duties are inscribed in part 4A of the constitution under article 51A. Okay, so this is about fundamental duties. Okay, so fundamental duties are non-justiciable. They were included into the constitution under the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976. So for that purpose, a committee has been constituted by the government that was known as Swaran Singh Committee, and they have recommended inclusion of the fundamental duties. And Swaran Singh Committee has recommended that like fundamental duties must be made enforceable. That means like if someone is not performing fundamental duty, there should be penal provisions. But at that point of time, the government, okay, so like Congress government was in center, they made it non-justiciable, and at the same time they did not like include the provision of fine. So this particular thing was a recommendation of the Swaran Singh Committee, but like it was not made, okay, it was not made a part of the fundamental duty. Okay, so that's why statement 1 is incorrect. Okay, so with this, now let us take the next question for the day. This question was asked by UPSC in the year of 2013. Okay, let us read this question. It says, economic justice as one of the objective of the Indian Constitution has been provided in. Okay, they have given 4 options. We are going to read all of these one by one. Okay, here now we need to understand they are talking about a specific keyword which is known as economic justice. Now let us see. So economic justice as one of the objectives of the Indian Constitution has been provided in the preamble and the fundamental rights. Okay, under fundamental rights we do not find economic justice, so this is incorrect. State option B says the preamble and the directive principles of state policy. This is right. Option C says fundamental rights and the directive principles, again fundamental right. It is not there. Okay, none of the above. This is also not correct. Okay, so here we need to understand, if you read the preamble of the Constitution of India, okay, if you read the entire preamble of the Constitution of India, you will find an ideal that says justice, social, economic and political. Okay, it says justice, like in the entire preamble, we the people of India having solemnly resolved to constitute, right? If you read the preamble, you will find an ideal that says justice, okay, social, economic and political. Okay, it says justice, social, economic and political. It means like under the preamble, it means under the preamble of the Constitution we have a provision that says economic justice. Okay, so economic justice is very much there in the preamble. So option D was incorrect because it says none of the above. If we talk about the directive principles of state policy, okay, if we talk about the DPSPs, if you read article 38 of the Constitution, article 38 of the Constitution, in the article 38 of the Constitution, there is again you will find this particular phrase, okay, this particular phrase as part of article 38 that says justice, social, economic and political. It means the state should strive to promote justice, social, economic and political in all spheres, okay, of life for for people. So it is very much there in the directive principles of state policy as well. Okay, so this question, if we talk about this particular question is of applied nature. Okay, this question may be difficult for those people who are just reading the book, they are understanding but they are not thinking about the topics, they are not introspecting after learning the thing. This is easy question for those people who think about topics after reading, okay. So this is a question that can be considered as easy to moderate. Easy to moderate, because for many of you it is just an easy question if they are able to eliminate fundamental rights, okay. So fundamental rights are economic justice is not mentioned there, okay. So in the preamble and the directive principles of state policy, you will clearly find mention of this thing, economic justice, okay. So here, like today, after learning all the 5 questions, what we have understood, that the first question was based on the like ordinary bills and the joint sitting of the parliament. The joint sitting of the parliament is mentioned in article 108 of the Constitution of India. If we talk about second question, it was based on, okay, it was based on the this thing, money bill, okay, that is mentioned in article 110 of the Constitution. Then the next question was based on DPSP. Then like we had a question from this thing, this particular, I mean we have question from this thing, fundamental duties also. Then we have a question from economic justice, that includes the preamble and the directive principles of a state policy. What it exhibits, it simply says, okay, it simply says that the questions that are being asked in polity are not difficult, they are easy to moderate level, but at the same time, while reading the text, you should also understand the spirit of different portions, and you should try to correlate different areas, okay. If you are reading one area, if you are reading DPSP, you should be correlating with fundamental rights and the fundamental duties. In that case, you will be able to answer all questions of Indian polity, okay. So that's all that I had to discuss with you for the day. Thank you so much everyone for attending this session. I hope you have a great day ahead.
Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.